The morning sun glared through the windshield, reflecting off my white gown as we drove towards the wedding venue. Daniel and I had been planning this day for months, and the excitement bubbled inside me. I, Leah, a 32-year-old nurse, was about to marry the man I thought was my soulmate. "Leah, isn't it beautiful today? Perfect for our wedding," Daniel said, his voice calm and reassuring. I smiled, nodding in agreement, feeling the weight of my engagement ring against my finger. Suddenly, Daniel's eyes fixed on something outside the car. His expression changed from serene to intense in a matter of seconds. "That's Rachel," he muttered under his breath. Rachel, his ex-girlfriend, was walking along the sidewalk, struggling with a heavy bag. "What?" I asked, confused. "Why does that matter?" Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he slammed on the brakes, jolting me forward. "Leah, get out," he said abruptly. I was taken aback. "What? Why? I need to help her. She's struggling. Just get out now." His tone was sharp, brooking no argument. "But, Daniel, it's our wedding day. Can't we just call someone to help her?" "No time. Just get out." Daniel's voice rose, his eyes not leaving Rachel. I felt a mix of anger, confusion, and disbelief. Slowly, I unbuckled my seatbelt and stepped out of the car. The door slammed shut behind me, and Daniel drove off, leaving me standing there in my wedding dress, out, alone and bewildered. Tears welled up in my eyes. This was not how I imagined my wedding day. The sight of Daniel's car disappearing around the corner, chasing after his past, shattered something inside me. I felt a cold, sinking feeling in my stomach. Had I misjudged the man I was about to marry? Standing on the sidewalk, I realized I had no phone, no wallet, nothing. I was completely stranded. The wedding venue was a 15-minute drive away. I had no choice but to start walking. As I trudged along the road, my mind raced. How had things come to this? Daniel, the charming, attentive man I had fallen in love with, had just abandoned me on our wedding day for his ex-girlfriend. The man who had once listened to my every worry, who had comforted me after long shifts at the hospital, now seemed like a stranger. Every step felt heavier than the last. My mind kept replaying the moment Daniel told me to get out of the car. It didn't make sense. Why would he do this? Was there something between him and Rachel that I didn't know about? By the time I reached the venue, my feet ached and my heart felt even worse. I was a bride without a groom, walking into what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, now clouded with doubt and betrayal. I entered the venue, trying to compose myself. The staff rushed towards me, concern etched on their faces. "Miss Leah, are you okay? Where's Mr. Daniel?" Taking a deep breath, I replied, "I don't know. He left me on the way here." My voice cracked as I spoke. Just then I saw Daniel walking towards me, his face a mixture of guilt and confusion. "Leah, I'm so sorry. I just thought—" "Thought what, Daniel?" I interrupted, my voice cold. "That leaving your bride on the sidewalk on our wedding day was a good idea?" Daniel opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. The realization of what he had done was finally dawning on him. The Daniel one knew, the one who was always so sure of himself, now looked lost and defeated. But it was too late. The damage was done. I turned away from him, my heart heavy with a decision I never thought I'd have to make. In the sanctuary of my small dressing room, the weight of the veil felt like a shroud of disillusionment. The reflection in the mirror showed a bride, yet the sparkle in her eyes had dimmed. The betrayal of the morning's events gnawed at me, unraveling memories of how Daniel and I had come to this fractured moment. Our story began 2 years ago, under much simpler circumstances. I was introduced to Daniel at a small gathering by mutual friends. He was charming, his laughter infectious, and his interest in my nursing career genuine, or so I had thought. As our relationship progressed, so did the subtleties of Daniel's control. Compliments about my dedication to nursing soon turned into thinly veiled comments about the time it took away from him. "I just miss you, that's all," he'd say, but the implication was clear. His needs should come first. I remembered the evening he first showed his disdain for my job. We were having dinner, and I was excitedly sharing a breakthrough with a patient. Instead of sharing my enthusiasm, he coldly remarked, "Isn't that a bit too much effort for someone who's not even family? You should focus more on what's at home." Those words stung, but I brushed them off, attributing them to stress from his own work. I convinced myself that Daniel's increasingly possessive behavior was just his way of showing love. But as I sat in my wedding dress, abandoned on our wedding day, those excuses crumbled. The turning point came 6 months before our wedding. During a heated argument about our future, Daniel had blurted out, "Maybe you should just quit your job after we're married. Wouldn't you prefer to be a good wife and take care of our home?" I was aghast. "Quit my job? But I love nursing. It's not just a job for me, it's a calling." Daniel scoffed. "A calling? Come on, Leah. It's not like you're saving the world. A wife's place is at home, supporting her husband." That night, I lay awake, wrestling with doubts and Daniel's antiquated views. However, my love for him, blinded by the hope that love could conquer all, led me to dismiss these red flags. The morning of our wedding, those ignored warnings came back to haunt me. As I stood alone in the dressing room, the reality of who Daniel truly was became painfully clear. The man who had vowed to love and protect me had left me on the side of the road for another woman. A knock on the door pulled me from my thoughts. It was my best friend, Sarah. Her eyes were full of concern. "Leah, are you okay? What happened?" I recounted the morning's events, my voice barely above a whisper. Sarah listened, her expression turning from shock to anger. "That's unforgivable, Leah. You deserve so much better than him," Sarah said, her voice firm. "But I love him," I whispered, more to myself than to her. "Love doesn't leave you stranded on the road on your wedding day," Sarah retorted. "You need to think about what's best for you, not him." Her words echoed in my mind as I looked at my reflection again. The bride in the mirror was strong, independent, and deserved respect. Respect that Daniel had failed to give. In that moment, a resolve began to form within me. Daniel's actions today were a clear sign. I couldn't marry a man who saw me as less than an equal, as nothing more than an accessory to his life. Emerging from the dressing room, I found Daniel pacing anxiously in the hallway. He looked up, his face a mask of regret. "Leah, I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. Please, can we just forget this happened and move on?" Forgetting was not an option. I squared my shoulders, meeting his gaze with newfound determination. "No, Daniel, we can't just move on. What you did today, it opened my eyes. I can't marry someone who doesn't respect me or my passions." Daniel's face fell, a mix of shock and disbelief washing over him. "But Leah, I love you." "This was just a mistake." "A mistake that showed your true colors," I said, my voice steady. "I deserve someone who supports me, not someone who leaves me on the side of the road for an ex." Turning away from him, I left Daniel standing there, his pleas fading behind me. The decision was painful, but necessary. I would not be a bride today, but I would walk out of this venue with my head held high, ready to face a future where I was valued and respected. The days following the broken wedding were a whirlwind of emotions and hard decisions. It was during a small, tense gathering at my home, with both our families present, that the true extent of Daniel's character began to unravel further. As we sat around the living room, the air was thick with unspoken words and disappointment. My mother, always my pillar of strength, broke the silence. "Leah, we support whatever decision you make, but are you sure you want to end things this way?" Before I could respond, Daniel, who had been quietly brooding, spoke up. "Leah's just overreacting. We can sort this out. It was just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I echoed, my voice laced with incredulity. "You left me on the side of the road on our wedding day, Daniel." Daniel's mother, a stern woman who had always been cordial to me, turned to her son with a frown. "Daniel, that was inexcusable. You need to make amends." Daniel rolled his eyes, a dismissive gesture that sent a wave of anger through me. "I already said I was sorry. What more do you want?" I felt my hands clench into fists. His lack of remorse and understanding was infuriating. "Sorry doesn't just erase what you did, Daniel. It's not just about today. It's about everything leading up to it." My father, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. "Leah, we just want you to be happy and respected. If Daniel can't give you that, then maybe it's best to part ways." Daniel scoffed, his arrogance on full display. "Oh, please. This is all just being blown out of proportion. Leah knows I'm the best she'll ever have. She's not going to leave me." His words struck a nerve, and I felt a surge of defiance rise within me. "The best I'll ever have?" "Daniel, you've done nothing but belittle my career and my choices. You don't respect me as your partner." Daniel's father, a quiet man, finally interjected. Son, you need to realize the gravity of your actions. You can't treat Leah, or any woman, like this. But Daniel was unrepentant. I don't see why everyone's making such a big deal out of this. Leah, you're just too sensitive. You should be grateful that I'm willing to overlook this and still marry you. The room fell silent, the audacity of his words hanging in the air like a toxic cloud. My mother's gaze hardened. Leah is not the one who should be grateful, Daniel. She's a strong, independent woman who deserves someone who truly values her. It was then that I realized the full extent of Daniel's narcissism and disrespect. He saw me not as a partner, but as a possession, something to control and belittle. Daniel, this isn't just about today, it's about how you've treated me all along, I said firmly. I don't need someone who sees me as less than they are. I need a partner who respects and supports me. Daniel's face contorted with anger. Fine. If that's what you want, then we're done. But don't come crawling back to me when you realize your mistake. I looked at him, the man I had once loved, and felt nothing but disappointment and resolve. There's no mistake here, Daniel. The only mistake was thinking you could change. As he stormed out of the room, his family in tow, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. It was over. The wedding, the relationship, all of it. I had made my choice, and though the road ahead was uncertain, I knew it was the right one. In the aftermath of our failed wedding and the tumultuous confrontation with our families, I expected Daniel to retreat, to maybe even show a hint of remorse. Instead, he doubled down, his true nature unraveling in the most public and humiliating way. The day that should have been our wedding turned into a spectacle that I could never have anticipated. I had decided to go through with the reception, not as a celebration of marriage, but as a gathering of friends and family to thank them for their support. But Daniel had other plans. As I mingled with the guests, trying to maintain a semblance of composure, Daniel burst into the venue. His arrival was like a storm, chaotic and unsettling. His eyes, once warm, now bore into me with a strange mix of anger and desperation. Leah, we need to talk, now, he demanded, grabbing my arm with a force that made me wince. I pulled away, my voice steady despite my racing heart. There's nothing left to talk about, Daniel. But he was relentless. You can't just end things like this. We're meant to be together. His words drew the attention of the guests, their murmurs growing louder. I could feel their eyes on us, a mix of pity and curiosity. Daniel, you left me on our wedding day. You humiliated me. There's no coming back from that, I said, my voice rising. He scoffed. Oh, come on, Leah. You're overreacting. You know I only did that because I care about you. I wanted to make sure Rachel was okay. The mention of Rachel's name sparked whispers among the guests. I felt my cheeks burn with embarrassment and anger. You care about me? I countered. Is that why you compared me to Rachel, belittled my career, and demanded I quit my job? Daniel's face twisted into a sneer. You're just too sensitive. You need to learn your place, Leah. My place. Those words echoed in my mind, fueling a fire I hadn't known I possessed. My place is not with someone who doesn't respect me, I retorted. I don't need you, Daniel. I never did. His expression shifted from arrogance to something uglier, a mix of rage and wounded pride. Fine. But you'll regret this, Leah. You'll never find someone like me. I looked at him, seeing him for the petty, insecure man he was. That's the point, Daniel. I don't want someone like you. I deserve better. With that, I turned my back to him, leaving him standing in the middle of the room, his anger palpable. The guests parted for me, their expressions a mix of respect and sympathy. As I walked away, I heard Daniel's voice, shrill and desperate, calling after me. But I didn't look back. I had closed that chapter of my life, ready to start anew, free from his toxic presence. That day, I not only walked away from a broken wedding, but also from a relationship that had been suffocating me. I walked away with my head held high, my dignity intact, and a heart ready to heal and find true respect and love. In the weeks following the debacle of what should have been my wedding day, I found solace in routine, immersing myself in work and the comfort of friends and family. However, Daniel was not content to fade into the background of my newfound tranquility. It began with unexpected, unnerving encounters. I would often find Daniel waiting outside my workplace, his presence a stark reminder of the control he once wielded over my life. Each time, I firmly told him to leave, but my words seemed to fuel his determination. One evening, as I left the hospital, Daniel confronted me again. His usual arrogance was replaced by a desperation that bordered on mania. "Leah, you can't do this to me. We're meant to be together," he pleaded, blocking my path. I stopped, my patience wearing thin. "Daniel, it's over. You need to accept that and move on." He shook his head, his eyes wild. "No, I won't let you ruin this. We were perfect together. You're just confused." His insistence was unsettling, and I took a step back. "I'm not confused, Daniel. I'm clearer now than I've ever been. We're done." As I tried to move past him, Daniel grabbed my arm, his grip tight. "You're not going anywhere. You're mine, Leah." That was the last straw. I pulled away forcefully, my voice loud and clear. "I am not your property, Daniel. I never was. Let go of me now, or I'll call the police." The threat seemed to penetrate his delusion, and he released me, his expression one of shock and anger. "You'll regret this, Leah. You'll see." I didn't respond. Instead, I walked away, my heart pounding but my resolve firm. I wouldn't be intimidated or swayed by his threats. True to my word, I reported Daniel's behavior to the police. They took my statement and assured me they would handle it. A sense of empowerment washed over me. I was no longer the woman who would tolerate Daniel's manipulation and disrespect. The next I heard of Daniel was through mutual acquaintances. His obsession with winning me back had cost him. His professional reputation had taken a hit, with colleagues and clients alike distancing themselves from his increasingly erratic behavior. But the real downfall came when news broke that Daniel had been fired from his job. His conduct, once excused as high-strung ambition, was now seen for what it was, a series of aggressive and unprofessional outbursts. As I heard these stories, a part of me felt vindicated. Daniel, who had always prided himself on his control and status, was now unraveling, his true nature exposed for all to see. It was a harsh lesson in humility and respect, one that he had brought upon himself. In a strange way, his downfall was the closure I needed. I had moved on, my life a testament to my resilience and strength. Daniel's descent was a stark reminder of the bullet I had dodged, a life of control and belittlement I had bravely walked away from. I no longer felt anger or sadness when I thought of Daniel. Instead, there was a sense of pity for a man who had lost himself in his own arrogance, and a profound gratitude for the freedom and respect I now embraced in my life. Months had passed since the day I decided to turn a page in my life, leaving behind the shadow of a relationship that was more a prison than a partnership. The echoes of Daniel's downfall served as a distant reminder of a path I had narrowly escaped. But life, as it always does, moved forward, and so did I. I found myself in a new town, a fresh start, where whispers of my past were just that, whispers, irrelevant and fading. My days were filled with the fulfilling challenges of my nursing career and the simple joys of newfound freedom. I had grown, not just in strength, but in my understanding of what I truly deserved. It was on a bright Saturday morning, in the quaint local market of my new town, that fate decided to bring a semblance of closure to my story. I was perusing fresh produce when a familiar figure caught my eye. Rachel, Daniel's ex-girlfriend, the unintentional catalyst of my wedding day disaster, was there, browsing not too far from me. Our eyes met, and there was a moment of mutual recognition, followed by a hesitant approach. "Leah," she said, her voice tinged with a mix of surprise and something akin to empathy. "Rachel," I replied, the name feeling strange yet familiar on my tongue. "I heard about, well, everything," she said, her gaze kind. "I'm so sorry for the part I played in it, however unintentional." I shook my head slightly, a small smile on my lips. "You have nothing to apologize for. If anything, you helped me see the truth." Rachel nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Daniel is a complex person. I've had my fair share of troubles with him." I raised an eyebrow, curious despite myself. "Troubles?" She sighed, a weary look crossing her face. "After your wedding day, he wouldn't leave me alone. Kept insisting we were meant to be together. I had to get a restraining order." The news didn't surprise me, but it did bring a sense of finality. Daniel, in his obsession, had spiraled down a path of self-destruction. "I'm sorry you had to go through that." Rachel shrugged, a small, sad smile playing on her lips. "It's over now. He finally got the message, or at least I hope he did. I'm just trying to move on." "Moving on is the best we can do," I said, feeling a kinship with this woman I once saw as a rival. We chatted for a bit longer, exchanging stories of moving forward and the lessons learned from our encounters with Daniel. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of peace. Walking away from the market, I realized that this chance meeting was more than just a coincidence. It was a reminder of how far I had come, of the strength I had found in myself to overcome adversity and disrespect. My steps were light as I made my way home. The burden of the past finally lifted. I had survived, thrived even, and in doing so had found a deeper appreciation for my own worth. Daniel's chapter in my life was closed, a distant, fading memory. Ahead of me lay a path of my own making, filled with possibilities, and the promise of a future where respect and love were not just desired, but demanded. In that moment, I knew that the best revenge was not in the downfall of the one who wronged me, but in the life I would build, free from his shadow. A life where I was the author of my own story, strong, respected, and unapologetically me.